So, the Italian Photobook. Why doing something on Italian photobooks? Does it even make sense? Maybe not, in a way, because it's, the word has become, a place. Even Italian photographers, they travel. Publishers come from all over the world. It's not something that speaks necessarily of an Italian identity. So the reason why we did this, first of all, because I was going to Los Angeles a few months ago. I was doing a fair in LA, and I wanted to introduce Micamera, so us as a gallery and as a bookshop, as an Italian place. That we are different. We come from Italy. So I thought it was very interesting also for this reason, and also to support my community, which is clearly very much an Italian community. It's Italy-based. I decided to dedicate this fair in LA, our stand, to Italian artists. And so we, I don't know if you remember, like 10 years ago, something like that, there was a period of time where every country was publishing a book on their own photo books. There was a Swiss photo book, the German photo book, the Dutch photo book. There was no Italian photo book, by the way, probably because the Italian scene was much smaller. And back then, we did a zine with a very good friend of ours, Lorenzo Tricoli, a photographer we used to work with. We did a zine on the Italian photo book, and we did an exhibition. We toured the exhibition. Then Lorenzo Tricoli sadly passed away unexpectedly, and so I thought there was a wonderful opportunity for me to do something to remember also Lorenzo. So all this is very much dedicated to Lorenzo Tricoli. So it's very simple. We published this magazine that has no text, just the covers of the book, and just a selection that we think is relevant over the last 10 years. Now, clearly, as soon as this was released, a lot of people were disappointed. My book is not included. It's just our take on this. And, it's the best we could do, and we might have missed somebody. No offense to anybody, but every time you make a selection, you leave somebody out. And what a bookshop does, and Micamera was born and is mainly a bookshop, is trying to use books to promote photography, every time trying to find a way to do so. So, I don't know, we very often do selections of books speaking about something. It's both a way to promote the books and also very important, a way to try to understand something. To understand our own world, the world we live in. There's something I very strongly believe in, that is the power of art and of books, mainly in my case, to change a world. Now, somebody said, or to make this a better place, at least. Somebody said, very rightfully, that it shouldn't be artists to do so. It's too much a big responsibility. It should be people with much more money taking this responsibility, clearly. But artists give us something that is so important, that is allowing us, helping us to imagine a different way to do things, a better way. No? Imagine a different world. And without this imagination, we couldn't change anything. We wouldn't be aware. So for me, every book is a story that helps us understanding the world we live in. So the presentation here is based on, I chose one book for each year from 2015 to 2025. Sorry, let me put this here. Okay, just a second, I'm a one-man band. So, 2015. 2015 was the year this book was released, and I thought maybe in France you might know about this book by Paolo Woods and Gabriele Galimberti. Paolo Woods is based in Paris, is almost French, I would say now. The Heavens was an incredible project that was released by two different publishers, Del Pier in French and David Lewis in English. The English edition is sold out. The French edition is still available. So, Paolo Woods and Gabriele Galimberti are two photojournalists. And This, by the way, this project was also exhibited in Arles, so you might have seen the exhibition. It was very successful. And the idea behind this book is that they were wondering how the, how do you call it in English? I have the word written here. The tax havens would look like, you know, because we always hear about these places where people basically hide their money. So big companies put their money, but we have no idea of how they, how these places look like. So one day, I think it started for them as a joke, you know, like I should put my money in a tax haven. And then they started thinking, okay, but how do these places even look like? And then they set out to go and photograph them, which is not an easy task because it doesn't work that you arrive in such a place and they let you photograph, you know, the people or the banks or the companies. So what they did was very interesting because they opened a company in one of these tax havens, and the company was called Havens, so very rightfully, I would say. So they based as much as Apple, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, they based it in one of these places. So then they did a lot of research and a lot of, before going there, they got in touch with the companies, with the people. And I remember Paolo Woods explaining very efficiently how it all depends on how you describe the operation you're doing. Because if you contact them and say, I want to document the tax havens, nobody would allow you to take any picture. But they, I mean, and if you ever meet them, you understand how also they are good in relating and in finding ways to get in touch with people. They managed to get appointments and the possibility to take these photographs. And at the end, they published this book, which I like how it says annual report on the cover, as if it was the annual report of this fake company that they had invented. The book is also a good example of how you can associate text and image. So images have a text that describes what the image is about, basically. So this kind of pictures, oops, wait a minute, I need, the kind of pictures that they took was, you know, as much as a word they wanted to document. So very artificial, clean, a little bit like an advertisement of the places. And they used large format camera, so this slowed down the process, but they managed to come up with this book that was a big success. And when they exhibited the work, they put like a meeting room in the center of the exhibition space, and the names on the cards were their own names. You know, like, so it was interesting because also they meant the work to be published in the book, and then the book became an exhibition, and every time there's a relation between these. If my English is unclear, please. So these are the images, clearly speaking of the places. And it's true that before this work, I mean, did you ever wonder how these places look like? The book became a huge success, and even the exhibition. By the way, that's in France, because Paolo Woods and Gabriele Galimberti, they belong to a collective, I would say, called Riverboom. And one of the members of this group is French, and he did a movie about them that came out, I think last year, 2 years ago, and in French. So maybe I also wrote the name. Claude Berthold, Riverboom film 2023. I saw just a little bit of the movie, but I invite you to look at it because it's they have really a peculiar way to work with photojournalism. So we go to 2016. This is Jest by Ilaria Turba. Jest has been released by a German publisher called Pepperoni Books. He was Hannes Wanderer. I'm so happy to have the opportunity of mention Hannes, who passed some years ago, very sadly. He was a very special human being. He was based in Berlin, had the greatest love. One of the people I think that I ever met in my life who really lived for his job, that was making books. He had also a bookshop in Berlin for some time, and he had this very funny name for an imprint, which was Pepperoni Books. That doesn't sound like a serious something to take seriously, but he was very serious. And he opened up also to Eastern country, the photo book world, because Hannes, in older years, he taught in Russia, he taught photography, and he published many photographers from Russia and from the Eastern countries. There was this festival years ago in Vienna, where he participated, usually bringing these photographers and giving them a stage. We are talking about a period when it wasn't so taken for granted that the photo book world opened to other countries, to other point of views. It's really in very recent years, that things have changed or are starting. I would say are starting to change, because until now, I would say over 90% of the books we have are published. The authors are from Western countries, Western publishers, and they're really such a large part of the world is totally underrepresented. As I said, things are changing now, slowly but surely, and it's very interesting. Even a publisher like Void, for instance, that is based in Greece, was totally unexpected in this world. There was no publisher from Greece until Void came on the scene. Well, anyway, going back to Italy, Ilaria Turba Jest, she met Hannes Wanderer at the bookshop, which is one of the things I'm very proud about, because we try to create, to keep the place as an environment where things happen and people meet. And a lot of the things that happen do not relate directly to us. I have no role in the making of this book, but I was the one who invited Hannes and told Ilaria to show him her work. And so many things happen just from encounters. And Italy, for many years, has been on the edge, like a little cut out from the photography world. So for us, this idea of connecting people and making things happen is one of the reasons we have a space. And if you think today, most bookshops are only online. And that's also why an event like Mulhouse and the Biennale is so important, because that's where you meet. And most of things still need people to meet in person. So to create this kind of encounters is really necessary to allow this world to thrive. So Ilaria had this project that, of course, I knew about. That's why I told her to come. And it's a project about her own family album, which is something that a lot of people have been working with. In her case, the story is that she inherited the whole archive in one single time, so all together. And looking at the photographs, she discovered something that had happened in the family that is never revealed in the book, and that she doesn't say publicly. But she discovered that there was something unexpected that happened in the family. So she started looking at her own family images with the idea that when you look at something, it might be something that is not exactly the truth. So what are we looking at when we look at an image? Even this now is a little taken for granted because over the last years there has been rightfully so much talking about AI and fake images, fake news. So we are getting used to look at images and wondering, is this a real image? But back in 2016, this was still like an original way of looking at photography. So when Ilaria did this project, she was always inserting something in the images that was kind of strange. Sometimes clearly, like in this photograph, sometimes less clearly. So it was that you were looking at the book, and then when you understood it was all about tricks, you will go back in the pages, and it was like playing a game. You know, what's wrong in this image? What is, and why did she choose to make this wrong? For her, it all started with this image, 2 images from the family album that are totally unrelated, but if you put them side by side, one next to each other, it changes completely the perception of the page. So she started from here, and she ended up in places like this. And jest, which is an English word that means joke, basically, something funny, something unexpected. It's all about this. Then, interestingly, Ilaria, this is how she exhibits. This is a show I curated in a location in Milan, in a museum. That is a house museum. Jest became a device to make people play on using images, working on this idea that everything can be a trick. So even the exhibition was, looked like this. We, one in the like things that were hiding. And things that you could use actively to play. I like this photograph because on the wall there's an image by an artwork by Ilaria, which is I'm sure Sandra recognizes the book cover of Jessica Backhouse, which is a part of the image. Ilaria includes quotes in her work, which is also something I very much like, and I see a lot working with books. Authors that relate to other authors is the same that happens in music at the end. No? You have, you start using photography as a way of express your art. And of course in a good perspective, you know the other authors who have been working in the same, in your same area of interest. And very often you relate to a tradition, to an author. In this case, she made it very clear. She inserted in the image the cover of the book of an author that she works with, she respects, and she wants to be associated with. You see a device in the exhibition that people were supposed to use. There were 2 different images on the 2 sides of the big coin, and of course when you were rolling, it's the old game that you see, the bird in the cage. Is that this was a performance that she had in the exhibition where it's again a photo of from the family album, and over time these parts of the image would fall on the floor, and it was related to a storm that happened in the house. So it's a way also that I think is interesting to use photography to activate a process. Okay, so different book. It's very fast like that. After speaking an hour about a beautiful work, to go through books so quickly, it's a little strange. This is Kaboom, Andrea Botto. Kaboom, the explosion of landscape. So this is another category of books, could be manuals, books that relate to manuals, how to make something. There's one of the last that I remember that is very interesting is Carmen Wynant did a very interesting book like that. And there's a whole section of the bookshop of authors who use relating to how to do something. In this case, Andrea Botto has been working with the idea of explosions and how to make buildings and places in the landscape blast. And it relates to many things. Of course, it has many deeper meanings. One is a landscape and how we are using the landscape. One is the Italian landscape and how we have been over-exploiting in a bad way our own landscape. And one is the anxiety of transformation also, so on a different level. And how destruction can become a form of creation then. You know, how sometimes you just make everything explode and then you have a tabula rasa and then something new comes, something good comes out of it. So it's really on different layers. The book was published by a French publisher called Éditions Bessardes, which is, I mean, I remember some years ago he was very much in the bookshops and he was more silent for some time, then he came back. It's also interesting to see this movement that publishers do. Some, I don't know, some like Mac, when he started, I remember we were hosting Mac at Micamera in 2016, and he was saying, I will never publish over 9 books a year maximum. Look at Mac now. It became a huge, very successful publisher. But clearly we're very much beyond that idea of keeping a small imprint. For good reasons. It's not a bad thing at all. But every publisher has his own life. And as much, really, sometimes it's very easier for us to think of them as record labels. It's really very much the same thing. But for some strange reasons, people never think of them in the same way. So anyway, this manual was very interesting because it was both using images that he reconstructed and images that he borrowed. So there was a performative also action within the book and the work. What I find interesting in this work also is every time you see an explosion, he has a certain distance to the explosion, as if he wants to keep in the safe zone, which could be significant for many things. As Paolo Woods has River Broom, Andrea Botto has a collective that is, God, I have Alzheimer, but Fotoromanzo Italiano that you're welcome to follow on Instagram. Is very funny. It's 2 or 3 photographers who joined and are doing this recontextualizing, I would say, Italian pop culture. To put it in, to make a very short version. But very often it says a lot how photographers, not only in their work, how they move outside their own work. Very often they work with other people, who they choose to work with, on which subjects. Yeah, it's very interesting to also to understand, to look back at their work afterwards. This is Andrea. It's in the book. So this is what I was talking about when I was talking about a performative act as well. So, 2018, going quickly, one of my favorite books. I don't know if you have ever seen this. Sadly, it's totally out of print, but this is The Pigeon Photographer. The publisher is Rohrhoff, is a publisher from Bolzano, Bozen, very German in some aspects, and Nicolò De Giorgis, who is the founder of Rohrhoff. You might have heard of him because he won the best book. He was the first Italian author, I think, to win the best book in Arles back in 2014. I'm quoting Arles because we're in France. I imagine you must relate to the French huge festival. And it was, I think, 2014, he had done this project about Muslim people praying in Italy. And of course, we have a very, very bad country where we don't have mosques, so they were praying in the most different places. And he had done this book that became really famous, and he won the festival. And then he ran an imprint that doesn't exist anymore, very sadly, but it was very successful. Anyway, the story of this book is really beautiful. I love this spread. Les pigeons espions. I chose this for you, French audience. It's a real story. I have to read it because otherwise I might not be precise. So Julius Neubronner, he was born in 1851 in Kronberg as the son of a pharmacist. He was very curious about photography. In 1907, he patented the design of a camera which could be attached to pigeons and would automatically take pictures during their flight in order to track their journey. Despite being used for a wide range of recreational, scientific, press and military purposes, the camera's success only lasted a few years until technically more advanced methods overtook it. So it's kind of the predecessors of today's drones. I would say much nicer, the pigeon, and at least they could shit on people. Excuse me, so no harm done to anybody, which makes them really much nicer. So I cannot read, so I go by memory. At first he was educating these pigeons to bring the how do you say that, the recipes for the pharmacy, you know, and he had educated them to come back to do a certain, and then he attached this camera which was timed, so he took a picture every certain amount of time. And then he had the idea, I mean, it's an incredible book. These are the photographs taken by pigeons. Yeah, no, but è bellissimo. And then I read I remember that he had a whole very complicated system where he would go by horse with these cages of pigeons close to places that he wanted to photograph, because of course the pigeons they couldn't go too far. So he had to take the pigeons, educate them to do a certain area. So it was very complicated, actually. I discovered all this. So this book, of course, came out and was very successful. Even the object, it was made in 3 parts. It had, let me see if I added this. I don't know, maybe it was the first image. It had like a newspaper attached to it and a booklet. And the text is then is by John Fontcuberta, clearly. Who else could have written for such a book? And yeah, it's very sad that now this imprint doesn't exist anymore, because Nicola De Giorgis is a really brilliant author himself and publisher. We have now, he was working with Allegra Baggio Corradi, a very young woman from Italy, really brilliant, who kind of managed the imprint with him. Now she has opened a new imprint called Shibboleth, and we have something downstairs, but she works mainly on language issues, a lot with children, but she's also doing great books. So in a way, Rohrhoff gave was like the school where she learned kind of being a publisher, and now, so it's not dead. It just turned into something else. Oh, it's late. I'm too low. See. Oh, see, sorry. Thank you. But it's good to finish with the pigeons, though, right? Sorry for being so slow. Yeah, too many. I won't even tell you how long I could go. Yeah. No, it's almost okay. I can do just one, and then we can, if you have questions. I could talk for hours about books, so just stop me at a certain moment. But this is very important for me, so I finish with this one, maybe. This is Matteo Di Giovanni. Matteo Di Giovanni is one of those people that I know because he came every day to the bookshop. Okay, so the idea is this guy every day walks into the bookshop. So, I mean, we became good friends, clearly. And a photographer, young, he had stopped photographing because while he was doing his master in London, he went to Sarajevo to shoot his final project for the master. He had a very bad car accident, was in a coma for a year, lost his leg, and was living near Micamera because we're near one of the major hospitals, Niguarda. So he had chosen to live there in an apartment because he was going to the hospital. And long story made short, in Italy, it's impossible to have, if you don't have a lot of money, to have a good leg. So he had a leg that didn't allow him to walk on every different, ground, to carry weight. So he had given up photography. Of course, we fell in love with Matteo because he's such a nice guy and then very good photographer. He was showing us his older pictures. So we started trying together to find a way to get him back on tracks. So we were not rich ourselves. So we made a Kickstarter campaign. The idea is that Matteo would have a leg sponsored. A leg is really expensive. We're talking about really a lot of money. But so he got the leg sponsored, a car sponsored, and some money, and he left for North Cape. He went to North Cape and then came back. And along the journey, the idea was that he was testing the leg on different grounds and testing the machines and how he could work. And he came back with an amazing body of work that became this book. And after this book, he published many other books. So Matteo really has an incredible career. He also had an exhibition at Robert Morat Gallery a couple of years ago. So, I mean, an author who has published with different publishers all over the world. But this is the first book I'm very proud of. And even here, the distance is fundamental. You can see that Matteo looks at the world from a certain distance because it's as if he's trying to understand how to overcome an obstacle, if there is an obstacle, how to, so sometimes it's not what you see in the picture, is how you you really have to sit with a project for a long time to understand what is important in the photographer's work. I was looking this morning, you can still find the Kickstarter campaign. He looks so young in the campaign. It was many years ago. This could be a very nice final image to wish you all to fly and